Good evening, everybody. Today is something a little bit different for the YouTube channel. I'll be walking through my retouching process and how I go through the image. This will include dodge and burning, FS, how I get rid of stray hairs, everything that I do on a normal image, whether it's client or TFP. So today's image is of a beauty image that I shot last month for a skincare line. This was a quick shoot with various products. Here we have Brianna, who's a new model in the DMV area. This was her, I believe, her fifth or sixth shoot. Just really impressed by her performance during the shoot. She was able to make various expressions, easy to work with, easy to direct, and overall just a very great session for the whole team. So I have about 4 images here. Not sure which one I wanted to go through for the video. Probably thinking one of these two, maybe this one or this one. She has a very great smile, so I definitely want to work on one of those. Probably this one. I think this one will be the best choice. Very tough. A lot of these shots were really great, so I think I'm going to go with this one. Actually, this one might be a little bit challenging. That way I can show you guys how I get rid of all this hair. Fairly easy for me, but I know a lot of people have questions and concerns about how to get rid of that in the most effective way. So with that being said, let's hop into Photoshop. And this is Capture One, by the way. Capture One version 2022, I believe. And I will be going into Photoshop version 2021. Alrighty, so we're in our Photoshop application. I'm just going to use my quick program right here. And this just sets up a dodge and burn group. Now I'm going to switch it to black and white. This is just to help me see small imperfections. She had a breakout this day, so there's going to be a lot to clean up in this image, especially around the forehead, a little bit on the cheek area, as you can see. And we're going to start off on my cleanup layer down here, and I will be using the stamp tool on a pretty low flow but 100 opacity. So we'll get right into that. Just small little cleanups. Try not to overdo anything when you are retouching images. That's the key. Less is more. So now I'm going to switch over to the healing brush tool for this long strand of hair. Actually, I'm going to switch to the spot healing tool. It might be a little bit better. Switch back to the stamp tool. Sometimes I don't like the healing brush tool and how it changes the image, or the spot rather, where you're fixing. So sometimes the stamp tool is a little bit better. Overall, I would rather use FS on this part, honestly, but I'd rather get this out of the way before I move to dodge and burn. So you can kind of see where I use the healing or the spot healing tool, because you can see a kind of a deformed line where the hair once was. Might go back in there and fix it later, but for now I think that's good enough. For the stamp, might clean up a little bit more up here. Might have to fix that later too. Sometimes I don't like to mess with the stamp tool on color areas like that, because there's not a lot of detail there, as you can see. So I'll probably fix that with a little bit of FS as well. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the dodge and burn. So I already have it set up over here. You can see at the top my settings, I always use a soft brush. My opacity kind of varies, but for this I think I'll change it for 100 opacity and then 2 for the flow, and we'll start with the local dodge, and that is making darker spots to lighter spots. So I just realized a little bit of a mistake here. I accidentally had my healing brush tool set to sample all layers while I was on the black and white layer. So make sure that you have that off when you're doing your cleanups, and I'm gonna have to erase all that, which isn't a big deal. I can just again fix that in FS, so not really any time lost on that. But it's still annoying, so just make sure that you look out for that check mark up at the top. Just select sample all layers, make sure that's off. Alrighty, so we're pretty much done with the FS, or excuse me, the dodge and burn. So now we're going to move on to the FS. There might be some things that I will have to fix after the FS, so I might make a second local dodge and burn group just these two layers down here. So I'm gonna come up to my FS layer, and so I use median instead of Gaussian blur. So the way it's set up is you just use, the way you do FS is you just increase the radius until you get rid of the detail in the face. So start at 5 and then just slowly move up. So mainly I just want to get rid of this hairline right here. I don't want to get rid of too many other things because then it starts messing things up when you actually go into to fix things. So let me just check this to make sure. So I think we can go up a little bit more. Yeah, I think that's good. Perfect, so now we just click OK and it finishes the action. So we're just going to start in our high copy. So now we're going to move on to our low copy layer. And so my settings for this is 30, 30, 30, and 25. But a lot of times I might change depending on what I'm fixing. I might change the wed. I think that's or the wet, excuse me. Can't see from back here. So we'll start off with 35 and see how it does. Right now I'm on the mixer brush tool. I'm using a soft brush as well, always using a soft brush. So now we'll go ahead and start fixing this. And again, this isn't a skin smoothing tool, so just small little adjustments. We're not going to be doing a lot. And now for the hair, I'm actually going to bring this below. I'd actually bring this below the global dodge and burn instead. So the way I get rid of hairs, there's many different ways. You can use the stamp tool, you can use the healing brush tool, you can use the spot healing brush tool. The way I do it is I do a mix of kind of everything. But what I like to do, this might not be the most charitable way to do it, but it seems to be the easiest and quickest, as well as it keeps kind of the background colors consistent. Otherwise I could do FS, but that involves using both the high and low pass layers, and that's just a little bit too much work, and sometimes things get messed up here and there, so it's better for me to just work in one layer to get rid of the hair. So we're just going to go in here. I'm going to bring up the mixer brush. I brought the wet up to 70, and we're just going to come up here, hit the sample all layers, and then we're just going to go in here. I'm actually going to turn up the flow to about 50 as well. So we're just going to go in here. Get rid of all that hair. And you can see it's cutting into her skin. But we're gonna fix that later. But right now we're just getting rid of all the get rid of all the hair that we don't want in the picture. I want to keep some flyaways just because I personally don't like the super perfect look when it comes to hair. So that's good on that side. I'm just going to come in here and do the exact same thing. So now I just hit Alt and I hit the mask at the bottom of your screen, and that just creates a layer mask, black instead of white. So now we're just going to go up here. I'm going to increase the hardness of the brush to maybe 50, increase the opacity all the way to 100, and we're going to increase the flow to maybe 60-ish, but we might have to adjust depending on how this turns out. So now we're going to do, so we're going to mask in the parts that we just got rid of. That way we keep the skin or the sides of her face intact and not brushed out. So that's good for me. I'm just going to hit save, and then we're just going to jump back into Capture One. The greatest thing I like about Capture One is you can do everything through here, minus Photoshop obviously, but it holds all my images very easily. It saves right automatically back into Capture One, so it updates instantaneously. And yeah, I enjoy using Capture One a lot better than Lightroom. So now we have our TIFF file. I'm just going to open up our tools over here, and you can see that we can have layers. I'm just going to create a field adjustment layer. I'm just going to name it Sharpen. Make one for the base, as I call it. Might have a color adjustment, and then we'll have a grade, and then we'll have a focus layer, as I call it, and it's basically just a controlled vignette, nothing too crazy about it. So for sharpening, I like to do about 150. That's kind of my standard. my clarity at 5, and my structure at 10. I don't do any pre-sharpening in Capture One before I take it to Photoshop, and I don't do any sharpening in Photoshop, so this is all the sharpening that I will pretty much do for this image. For the base layer, I'm just going to open up my levels, high dynamic range and exposure. So what we're going to do, I think we're going to increase the shadows just a bit, so like +10, just to create some contrast in there. I'm going to bring down the brightness just a tiny bit, so about 2. I'm actually going to scrunch that shadows back to, let's do 7. Bring the saturation to about 2. And then for the color, we're going to bring up our color editor tool. I'm going to hit those skin tones. Take the eyedropper tool. We're going to hit that red spot that we were looking at earlier. Now we're going to view our selected color range. Decrease our smoothness. Now we're going to get pretty uptight with that to try to isolate that one area. So I think this is good. Increase the smoothness a bit more. So we got that pretty much isolated. Now I'm going to change the hue to something a bit warmer. Yeah, there we go. However, you can kind of see that there's a lot more than just this spot that's affected. Her lip colors are affected. Now it's kind of like a orange peach kind of look. We don't want that. So what I'm going to do is come up here, create a mask layer from the selection. Oh, this got turned up to the saturation for some reason. Put that to 0, put that to 0. So now you can see that we have kind of a big selection, a little bit bigger than what we were originally looking at. So we're just going to take our eraser brush and just erase pretty much everything that we don't want affected. Change the hardness as well as the flow. Maybe a little bit more up there. I think that should be good. So now we're going to go back to this, select that red, decrease the smoothness. There we go. So now we have our selection, and with this now we can actually come up to maybe our basics. Have a little bit more, might be a little bit too much, so let's see. Might have to fix it later as well, because it's not perfect at all. But it is better than what we were using before. So I'm just going to bring that back down, turn off my color layer. And now I'm going to turn on our grade layer. I don't do a whole lot with the grade, but I am just going to do like a classic teal and orange kind of look, but very, very subtle. So blues in the shadows. And bring up those oranges a little bit. Maybe decrease the shadows a bit. So nothing too crazy, but just something very, very subtle. And then I'm going to turn on my focus layer. And I'm going to use my radial tool, or radial gradient tool. I'm just going to expand that. You can hit the M button and you'll see where what you adjust is going to affect. So anything in the red is where the adjustment will apply to. So I'm just going to have it kind of apply behind her. And then we're just going to bring down the brightness just a bit. And now we're actually going to come back to our base layer. Increase the black a little bit so her hair isn't completely lost. And that's just something I like to do. You don't have to do that. But I do like to kind of draw some more attention to the model's face. And now for the final thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our color editor, select our skin tone eyedropper tool, and now we're going to hit create masked layer again. So now we have the whole body basically. I'm going to go back to our skin highlights, right click, copy mask from adjustment layer 2. We're going to get rid of that. And now we're going to use the Luma range. We're going to bring the shadows all the way down to right about here. I think that's good. And then we're going to take our eraser brush again and delete all of this. That's good. Expand this a little bit. Now we're going to come down to our color balance again. I'm just going to hit these cyans a little bit. Very, very light blue. And this is just going to make the highlights on her cheeks and forehead a little bit more less warm, so more on the cooler side. So just very, very subtle, nothing drastic. Take these down actually. So yeah, this is pretty much what a final image would look like. Nothing too crazy. I don't do beauty a whole lot, so it's something I'm still trying to practice and get better at. But this is what I would probably deliver to the client for his or her needs. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you learned a lot. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me on Instagram or put down in the comment section on the YouTube video. Other than that, stay tuned for more videos in the future, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.